Nick asked me if he could caddy. I said, yeah, I don't have one. I need him. That'd be great. And he knew the course, and he didn't quite know the club selection until after I hit the second hole. I hit an 8-iron from 205. He goes, okay, I get it. You're 4 clubs stronger than Nick. Sorry, Nick, but I hit an 8-iron 205, and he figured it out from there. And it was just, we just hit it like that. It was awesome.
John Daly once called someone the GOAT, and that sparked a conversation about greatness that goes far deeper than most people realize. At first glance, you might think Daly is just another golf personality throwing around opinions, but when you look at the 5 golfers he truly admires, you discover something remarkable. These aren't random picks. These 5 legends shaped everything about John Daly, from the way he learned to grip a club to the philosophy he lives by today. Let's start with the foundation, because every great golfer needs one. For John Daly, that foundation came from Jack Nicklaus, but not in the way you might expect. Daly didn't learn from private lessons at some country club. He learned from a cartoon. That's right, a Saturday morning cartoon called The Jack Nicklaus Lesson Tee. Daly has said he learned his grip and everything else from that show, which came out around 1969 or 1970. Think about that for a moment. While other aspiring pros were getting coached by club professionals, young John Daly was sitting in front of the television, watching an animated version of the Golden Bear teach him how to hold a golf club. But here's what makes this story even better. Daly didn't stop at cartoons. He went deeper. He studied Nicklaus's famous book, Golf My Way, published in 1974. That book influenced countless golfers, and Daly was one of them. So while his method was unconventional, his dedication was real. He was a self-directed student who actively sought out the mechanics and strategy from the best player in the game. And what a player Nicklaus was during Daly's childhood. When Daly was learning that cartoon grip, Nicklaus was dominating golf like nobody before him. Between 1970 and 1980, Nicklaus won 8 major championships. Even more impressive, he competed in 40 majors during that decade and finished in the top 10 in 35 of them. That's an almost unbelievable level of consistency. By 1980, Nicklaus had overtaken Bobby Jones's record and completed not just a double but a triple career Grand Slam. For young Daly growing up in the 1970s, Nicklaus wasn't just a golfer. He was the only standard for greatness. This foundational admiration never faded. Daly still speaks with deep respect about Nicklaus today. He's had memorable meetings with the Golden Bear himself, and he actively participates in the never-ending debate about Tiger versus Jack. What's important to understand here is that beneath Daly's wild exterior, there's always been the heart of a traditionalist. He learned his grip from a cartoon, but he learned his standard of greatness from a king. The beauty of this origin story is how perfectly it captures who Daly would become. He took the unconventional path, learning golf from television like millions of fans, but he did it with such dedication and natural talent that he ended up competing with the very legends he studied. That cartoon wasn't just entertainment for young Daly. It was his golf academy, his university, his pathway to understanding what greatness looked like, and he absorbed every lesson. If Nicklaus gave Daly his technical foundation, then Arnold Palmer gave him his soul. Palmer represents everything Daly became, the charismatic, fan-favorite golf character who blended success with a genuine enjoyment of life. And the connection between these two men goes far beyond admiration. It's actually immortalized in a drink. Everyone knows the Arnold Palmer, that perfect mix of iced tea and lemonade. It's a G-rated symbol of Palmer's universal appeal. But there's also the John Daly, which takes that classic combination and adds sweet tea vodka. This isn't a joke or a parody, it's a cultural acknowledgement. The John Daly drink recognizes him as the rightful heir to Palmer's everyman appeal. Daly is the vodka-infused 21st century version of the same man of the people that Palmer was. Same philosophy, just uncensored. Daly has never been shy about his connection to the king. One of the most powerful moments in his entire career happened at the Insperity Invitational, his first victory on the PGA Tour Champions. As Daly walked up the 18th fairway with the victory secured, he stopped, knelt down, and kissed the Arnold Palmer umbrella logo painted on the grass. It was spontaneous, emotional, and deeply reverent. It was a public acknowledgement of the debt he owed to Palmer and to the entire game. It was a subject paying tribute to his king. But the relationship went deeper than public gestures. Daly's favorite story about Palmer reveals a private, familiar connection. He recalls playing at Bay Hill with Palmer and Kenny Perry when Palmer asked them if they'd heard about this blue pill called Viagra. Daly and Kenny laughed and said, yeah, they'd heard of it. Palmer responded by saying he took it so he wouldn't fall out of bed. Now, this might seem like just a locker room joke, but it's actually incredibly significant. This isn't the kind of story you tell about a distant hero you barely knew. This is the story one character tells about another. It's a story of peers, of men who understood the enjoyment of life in all its aspects. By sharing this as his favorite Palmer story, Daly reveals the true nature of their bond. He didn't just admire Palmer's public image. He felt a genuine connection to the private, irreverent, human man beneath it. This is the key to understanding Daly's philosophy. Palmer's charisma made him a movie star on the golf course, and it was built on making the game accessible. Daly extended that philosophy by making the private parts of a golfer's life public, too. The vices, the humor, the struggles, even the blue pill jokes. By being so unapologetically himself, Daly celebrated the real man, which became the core of his brand and the source of his unbreakable bond with fans. He is the last of the Palmer-era characters, and he wears that crown proudly. While Daly's persona echoes Palmer, his early career performance placed him in an even more exclusive club, one that links him directly to Tom Watson. This isn't about style or personality. This is pure, hard data, and the numbers don't lie. John Daly was born on April 28, 1966. He won the 1991 PGA Championship at Crooked Stick when he was 25 years old. Then he won the 1995 Open Championship at St. Andrews when he was 29, two major championships before turning 30. That achievement places him in incredibly rare company. Let's look at the other American legends who accomplished this feat. Jack Nicklaus won his first major, the 1962 U.S. Open, at age 22, and his second, the 1963 Masters, at age 23. Tom Watson won the 1975 Open Championship at 25 and the 1977 Masters at 27. Johnny Miller won the 1973 U.S. Open at 26 and the 1976 Open Championship at 29. That's it. That's the entire club. Nicklaus, Watson, Miller, and Daly. Four American golfers who won two majors before age 30. To put this in perspective, Arnold Palmer won his third major at age 30, while legends like Ben Hogan and Sam Snead were 36 when they reached that milestone. Daly's burst of early greatness was on a trajectory reserved only for the truly elite. He wasn't just a character, he was a statistical peer of Watson and Miller in terms of early career success. But here's where the story gets complicated, and this is the central paradox of Daly's career. While he met every objective criterion for all-time greatness, he was consistently denied the subjective rewards. The most stunning example? John Daly is the only golfer from either Europe or the United States to win two major championships who was never selected for the Ryder Cup. Think about that. He achieved the Watson and Nicklaus statistical benchmark for inclusion, but his persona was deemed too volatile, too risky, too Daly for the golf establishment to trust him with a team selection. Palmer's charisma built the establishment. Daly's charisma, which the fans absolutely loved, was seen as a threat to it. So Daly's association with Watson is purely statistical. He earned his seat at the table with performance, but his personality left him standing outside the door. That's the great conflict of his career, and it makes his early achievements all the more impressive. He did it his way, even when his way cost him honors he'd clearly earned. In the early 1990s, if you wanted to talk about power in golf, you talked about one man, Greg Norman. The Shark was the gold standard. He was a two-time major champion whose classical, beautiful, athletic swing made him one of the longest and straightest drivers of his era. He was powerful, charismatic, and the undisputed king of the power game. When John Daly burst onto the scene in 1991, Norman was the contemporary he naturally measured himself against. But that measurement became a complete recalibration of the sport at the 1991 PGA Championship. Crooked Stick, the host course, was designed by Pete Dye specifically to challenge the power players of the day, and especially Greg Norman. Dye himself later said that Norman couldn't clear any of the trouble he'd designed into the course. Then came Daly, the unknown ninth alternate. Fellow pro Fuzzy Zoller explained what happened in simple terms. Dye had stacked all the trouble starting at 260 yards. You needed 280 yards to clear it, which was very risky. Daly flew it all in the air. In 1 week, with his massive shoulder turn, unique overswing, and grip it and rip it philosophy, Daly rendered Norman's gold standard obsolete. He didn't just measure up to Norman, he flew over him. The data backs this up perfectly. In 1991, his first year on tour, Daly topped the PGA Tour driving distance statistics. He was, on average, 6 yards longer than Greg Norman. He had changed the game, demonstrating with brutal efficiency how raw, explosive power could dismantle a major championship course that was built to stop exactly that kind of player. Daly serves as the essential bridge between Norman's classical power and Tiger Woods' modern athletic power. Norman's strength came from a beautiful, repeatable swing. Daly's 1991 win was proof that a bomb and gouge strategy built on raw power rather than classical form could win the biggest events. This disruptive moment set the stage for the next generation. A generation of players followed the Wild Things example, with Tiger Woods becoming the greatest exponent of the power game. The lineage is clear, from Norman's classic power to Daly's disruptive power to Woods' modern power. The relationship between Daly and Norman has evolved over the years. Recently, Daly begged Greg Norman for a spot on the LIV Golf Tour. Daly felt the LIV model, which compensated players for pro-ams, was a better deal for someone like him. Norman, now serving as CEO of LIV Golf, reportedly refused, telling Daly he was too old. While the rejection stung, the exchange shows Daly's enduring respect for Norman as a fellow power broker, a man who disrupted the game first with his driver and then with an entirely new tour. The most complex and ultimately most rewarding relationship in John Daly's career is with Tiger Woods. It's a multi-generational story that begins with Woods as a child, prodigy, admiring Daly's raw talent and comes full circle to them competing as respected patriarchs in family events. Their story unfolds in 3 acts, all built on mutual respect for talent. Act 1 takes place at Texarkana Country Club sometime around 1990. Daly was playing on the Nike Tour when he got paired with a little kid, maybe 12 or 13 years old. That kid was Tiger Woods. On a par 3 playing about 210 or 215 yards, Daly pulled a 5-iron and a max fly ball. He hit the shot and the rubber band came flying out of the ball. Despite this equipment failure, the ball still made it to the front of the green. It was a moment of pure, freakish talent. The punchline matters. Daly claims that Tiger to this day calls that the greatest shot he's ever seen in golf. Whether that's literally true or not, the story frames their entire relationship as one based on a mutual, almost primal appreciation for otherworldly talent. Daly also met Woods' parents that day and told them that when Tiger made it, if he ever needed anybody to look out for him, Daly would. This set a protective, big brother tone that defined their bond for 3 decades. Act 2 covers their competitive years. While Daly's peak was shorter than Tiger's, they had their share of epic showdowns. The most notable was the 2005 WGC Championship, where they battled in an intense playoff. This was a clash of 2 legends at the height of their respective powers. During this era, Daly also famously told stories about beating Woods while hungover or drunk. He recalls one round where he shot 65 while Tiger shot 71, and Tiger was shaking his head all day. From a positive perspective, these stories aren't boasts about vice. They're Daly's blue-collar way of saying his raw, natural talent could compete with Woods' disciplined, prepared greatness on any given day. It was his way of claiming his place among the elite. Act 3 brings us to the modern era and the PNC Championship, an annual tournament that pairs major champions with family members. This event became the setting for their full-circle moment. They're no longer the dominant force in the chaotic sideshow. They meet now as peers, as 2 fathers. They're frequently photographed together, all smiles, with their sons Charlie Woods and John Daly as 2. But this event isn't just ceremonial. For Daly, it became the venue to legitimately win his relationship with Woods on a real stage. That moment arrived at the 2021 PNC Championship. In a showdown that captured the golf world's imagination, Team Daly, John and John II, defeated Team Woods, Tiger and Charlie by 2 strokes. This was no friendly exhibition. Team Daly finished at 27 under par, setting a new tournament scoring record. Team Woods mounted a daring comeback, making an incredible 11 birdies in their last 12 holes. But Team Daly held them off. They shot a final round 57 to match Team Woods, with Big John crediting his son's unbelievable play. Daly called the win one of the highlights of his life. This victory reframed everything. It was no longer Daly claiming respect from Tiger through a 30-year-old story about a rubber band. It was Daly earning a tangible, record-setting victory over Tiger, man to man, father to father. It provided the perfect bookend to a relationship that began in Texarkana and cemented their bond as one of mutual, hard-won respect. So what does all this tell us about John Daly? His legacy is far more complex than the wild thing persona suggests. To dismiss him as just a character or a waste of talent misses the point entirely. His chaotic career, when viewed through the lens of the men he admires, reveals a profound connection to golf's greatest history. He's the student of Jack Nicklaus, who learned the master's grip from a Saturday morning cartoon but learned his standard of greatness from watching a king dominate the 1970s. He's the spiritual successor to Arnold Palmer, who kissed the umbrella logo in public reverence and shared irreverent private humor as a peer. He's a statistical equal of Tom Watson, a member of the elite 2 before 30 club, even though his exclusion from the Ryder Cup highlights his paradoxical role as both insider and outsider. He's the generational disruptor who redefined power for his contemporary Greg Norman, proving at Crooked Stick that the classical power game was over. And he's the respected elder to Tiger Woods, the man who awed a 13-year-old Tiger with freakish talent and who 30 years later stood beside him as a record-setting winner. John Daly, the self-described redneck who won the Open at St. Andrews, didn't crash the gates of golf's hallowed halls. He earned his place in the company of kings by reflecting and amplifying their greatest attributes in his own unforgettable way. These 5 golfers aren't just heroes to Daly. They're the blueprint for understanding everything he became, from his earliest days watching cartoons to his proudest moments sharing the course with his son. They shaped his swing, his philosophy, his competitive fire, and ultimately his legacy. When you understand these connections, you understand that John Daly was never the outsider people thought he was. He was always part of golf's greatest tradition, just playing by his own rules. Which of these 5 legends surprised you the most as a Daly favorite? Drop a comment and let us know what you think about the connections between Long John and golf's greatest names.